Is there a moment where you're like, fuck, I like that you remember when you were younger of like this like visceral feeling of like, I'm not doing enough, and that kind of like just clicked in and it's been perpetuating since?
There was a lot of moments that was just such a constant state. It's hard to figure out where it really happened. I think I can though, now that I think about it. So I went on a family trip to Italy with my parents I was a freshman, so 9th grade. And we went to visit the dungeons of the Inquisition. And it coincided with me moving to Texas from California. And Texas back then in 93 or whatever was like far more, I guess it was more like 96, 95, far more Christian than my California upbringing, you know? So I was in like a new kind of much more Christian reality. And then I went to go to Italy and I went to the dungeons of the Inquisition, and it was fucking horrifying, like absolutely horrifying. Yeah. Like 70% of all of the torture devices had to do with someone's genitals, and the other ones they still haunt me to this day. There's this one thing that like, you like shackle people in this particular position that like breaks your back and like bursts your hamstrings, you know? And I'm like, to like leave someone in that for days until they die. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Yeah. Like awful. And the Inquisition was of course out there, and it was led by the church, and they were finding quote heretics, people who didn't believe in the church or whoever they didn't fucking like, and then torturing them in this way, you know? So people who were into the plant medicines of the time, the witches who were just out there healing people and fucking working with energy and whatever, or anybody who had any different beliefs. Horrified by that. Came to Texas, and then I saw what capital R religion, of course it's not to that level anymore, but it was so many people were just shackled and riddled with so much guilt. We're coming into our own sexual, you know, our sexual spring in high school. And there were so many people who would like have an experience or start to masturbate and be just crushed with shame and like, or like be with their lover and for the first time. And it was just like, just awful things. Like this girl was just sobbing to me because she had sex for the first time, lost her virginity, and her religious boyfriend was like, you whore, how did you tempt me to have sex? You know, like all of this shit. And I was like, this is fucked. So, and I was always like a really deep thinker and philosopher from early, like always exploring like big issues in writing. At that point, it was like, I have to like attack and dismantle capital R religion. You know, like I can do it. Like I can fucking do it.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And, but I think that was the moment where I felt this like deep calling and, deep calling, like I have to fix these problems in the world. Now, of course, I'm actually much closer to being a Christian. I have a deep affinity with Christ, at least the mystic, Gnostic understanding of Christianity now. So my, you know, vehemence towards religion has really changed because I have deep admiration of the mystical truths of all of these religions, whether it's the Kabbalah or whether it's Gnosticism or whether it's like the true, you know, Ted Decker interpretation of the meanings of Christ or whatever else it might be. So that still isn't there with me, but that was the first moment where I felt like there was a big problem in the world and there was an infinite amount of things that I could do that would still never be enough.
For sure.
You know? And so I think that was that first feeling of like, fuck, there's a big problem, and no matter how much I do, it'll never be enough, but I got to just keep doing the maximum.
Yeah. It's hard because you're talking about trying to, you know, obviously you have a much better relationship with it now, but you're talking about trying to tackle the biggest thing that there is in this world, right? Like Christianity is bigger than the United States as far as how many people are into it and all that stuff. And I'm the same way as you, where I tell people I'm redeveloping my relationship with Jesus, right? Because there was a long time where I was like, fuck that guy, right? Like just the word God or the word Jesus would internally make me be like agitated, right? And I went through like my own journey as well of like, my mom was raised Catholic. She went to Catholic school with her, you know, one of 6 kids when she was younger. So then I went to, you know, Catholic church, which had some PTSD from Catholic church. I think most people do, you know, because my whole thing was like, no matter what, I always felt like I was doing something wrong because I was always being watched, right? So I'm 4, 5, 6 years old, trying to think everything that I'm doing, is this what God wants me to do, or is this wrong? Like, am I, and so it's this constant thought in the back of my head, like I say, a lot of people have this when they turn like 18 years old and they leave the house, they don't realize that they're constantly being like, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Like they think their parents are always looking over their shoulder, always trying to prove their parents right or wrong, or whatever it is they wanted from them. But for me, it was like, I got out of being religious. And then in about 2010, I was like, let me try to start going back to church. And I play guitar. So I started playing guitar at this church, which made me start going more. And then I got out of it and I was like, yeah, when we die, we'll just become worm food. Like I became very close to atheist, I would say. And then there was just a point where I was like, I feel like there's something. And then the first time I did ayahuasca, I was like, oh, this is that something. And I'm in that place where that something totally is. Like I'm here, like I'm in the inner workings of God, whatever that is. And I think there's a lot of people that have trauma around religion in general, just parents and the way that I mean, there's a lot of people that religion's really good for. And there's a lot of people that religion's really bad for. It just depends on who the person is and the way that it works. And my very first ayahuasca ceremony, I remember going into it because I was like, I need ayahuasca to show me that, because my family is very Christian still, like they're hardcore Christian. I'm very much on the other side of like, well, I'm open to everything. And I think, there's a lot of stuff that we can learn from all religions.
Yep.
And I got that way because the very first ayahuasca ceremony I did, after I went through all hell, and then it got beautiful when I finally released and just let go, and it was giving me all of the downloads to the universe. I said, what religion is right? And the very right away came through, all of them. They're all right. It's just like ice cream. It's just all different flavors, but you're still eating ice cream, right? Yeah. And I was like, so what's the point of, I was like, so, and the whole idea that I had was like, so what's the point of having all these different ones? And it's like, because different people need different things, and it's like the Ram Dass talks about this guru where he would go up to one person and he would say something, and he'd go up to some person and say the exact opposite of that one thing. And someone's like, this guy's, he's a charlatan, he's fake, he's saying all these different things. And someone goes up to him and goes, why'd you say this thing to that person? You said something completely opposite to the other person. He goes, because when you're walking down a road, some people veer off to the right and some people veer off to the left. And to get them both back on the road, they both need different directions, because one of them has to turn left and one of them has to turn right. And I was like, oh, all religions are right? And I was like, holy shit. Then maybe me judging my mom for being so religious is ridiculous, because that's what she needs to get one step closer to enlightenment. And whatever my sister needs is something different. And then whatever this person needs who's Muslim needs something different. It's like, how could I possibly judge somebody else? Because what they've been given and what they're following is what makes them feel like it's right for the next step in their soul. Same way that you and I, it might be meditation and psychedelics and connecting with other people and journaling and reading and that type of stuff. It's just the next level for all of us is somewhere out there, and it might be religion, or it might be just your own path that you follow on your own, or you might be connecting with other people in masterminds who have the same vision as you, and you start to create almost like, you're not creating your own church, but it's almost like another church where it's like you get around people who believe the same as you, and it makes you feel like, oh, I'm finally understood. And I think that's where my stress came from when I was younger, is that I always felt like I was being watched. I always felt like I was never right. And I always felt like I was going to hell no matter what I did.
Yeah, I mean, I think that all religions are right at their core essence, but they've been manipulated and
people fuck them up.
People fucked them up.
Yeah.
It's like what was originally ice cream has now become some fucking sludge made by some factory designed to profiteer off other people and become the middleman and create these mechanisms of control. And that's, I think, where everything got twisted. And really, the God that I understand says, I love you no matter what, and you can't do it wrong. And then the devil is like, you're always fucking up and you're always doing it wrong. It's the opposite, right? And so I think there's been this huge conflation, like fear God of all the things you were going to fear in the world. Like that's the last thing you should fear, 100%. But it's flipped the world upside down. And I think that's the nastiest trick of the devil or resistance, and try not to anthropomorphize and use these names, but that force has taken the seat of the divine, and it just completely undermines like the fact that people were torturing people in the name of God or killing people in the name of God or punishing, judging when God's like, I love you no matter what. And you can't do it. Like that's the real God, but everything got inverted.
Yeah.
So it's in this like dark upside down world prism that we've been in. But if you really like look through and peer through all the way through, you'll see that there's the kernel of the divine. There's the kernel of source in everything.
Yeah. Well, when you say that, it's funny because I think it's Alan Watts that says it, where it's like what we do, we grow up in, and I see it when I have friends that have kids, right? Like if you have a friend who's got a kid, like their God is their parents. Like just think about being 1-2 years old and there's this massive being that literally provides you all of the safety, all of the food and the water and love that you need. It's like our gods of our universe, up until we realize what God is, are our parents. And then we grow up and realize that our parents are just people and they are flawed in many ways. So what we do is we take this flawed idea of our parents being God and place that onto the God and think, oh yeah, well, he's going to send me to eternal damnation and I'm going straight to hell. And that's the thing that like I always got in trouble when I was in Catholic school, because I was like, if God is love, like why does he want to send me to this place that sounds like shit? Like I don't want to go, like this sounds terrible.
And philosophy of religion in college, one of the great things that I remember is like, if you're going to worship a God, it has to be at least as good as the best person you know. Like otherwise don't fucking worship that thing.
Right.
And like the best person I know would never that's cruel and unusual punishment. You're talking about a lifetime getting licked by flames.
Eternity.
That's
lifetimes on lifetimes on lifetimes.
Fucking eternity. Like that is evil.
Yeah.
That's evil. So don't worship that one. That's a demon.
Yeah.
Like that's a fucking demon.
Yeah.
Like Hieronymus Bosch paintings, like that's some demonic shit. There's nothing about God in that, because it has to be at least as good as the best of us.
For sure. At least
far
that's
beyond the fucking bar. That's the minimum
beyond which you can comprehend that person even being, right? So it's like, if you look at, if there's only two things in this world, there's love and there's fear, and everything comes from love and fear, right? And God is synonymous with love in all religions that you look at. So if something is the epitome of love, it doesn't even know fear, and it doesn't even know how to put fear into you. It is that voice of like, it's going to be okay. I'm here for you at all points in time. It's like, there is no way that God, and I don't know how at 5 years old, I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like this feels so wrong. Like this thing loves me so much. How could it possibly do that? It's like nothing that you could do could ever, and we spoke of this before. It's like Jesus. It's like, no matter what you could do, I'm still going, like you're already forgiven before you even do the thing that's wrong.
Yep.